What's going on, guys? It's Ricky with TechBot Solutions. So just another recap on today's trading. So thank you for all those that are being so patient. The group chat, like always, was being very active with all the different trades and just helpful advice. I do want to give a huge shout out to one of the people that did share one of his best practices, actually one of his mistakes today. And although, again, the whole point of this group is to share mistakes in effort to help one another out, right? So it is Jaime Hernandez. He talked about, breaking one of his rules, which is, common when it comes to day trading, that you might have gotten too emotional or whatever the case may be. The whole point of this group is, again, to share best practices. So I do want to give a huge shout out to him to share his mistake in effort to promote growth with all the other members within the group, as well as he learned from his mistake, so therefore he won't be making that same mistake again. And as you guys can see with all the likes that he got on that post, it looks like the team is very supportive and very appreciative with what he has said. So I traded a series of 3 different stocks today, and they were the ones that I announced during my pre-market movers. I usually filter out 3 to 5 different stocks before the market opens, just so I can focus on 3 specific stocks that I identified to have the most potential. It ended up being DGAZ, NUGT, and ATEC. And again, these 3 different stocks were traded at different time periods within the day, but NUGT was definitely the heaviest one that I traded on. Ended up dumping a little bit more than $6,000 into NUGT. My initial buy point was at $7.99, thinking that it was going to bounce at this old support. Ended up continuing to drop down, hit lows of $7.63. I bought more once it bounced at $7.87, which is the old support that it had according to yesterday's low point, right? It continued to drop and set new lows within the past 3 months, and then with that I ended up buying more at $7.65. It made my average down to $7.79, and then I ended up stop lossing out, still in the green, so I didn't want to risk too much. It actually hit highs of $7.93. I actually didn't hit or end up selling that high. Ended up selling at $7.85, locking in a little bit below, I believe, $50 with my trade on NUGT. Just again, with $6,000 vested and only seeing a $50 return, definitely not the trade that I wanted to see. But overall, I learned from my mistake. I ended up not waiting for the EMA line. I got a little bit more aggressive with this one just because I didn't want to miss out on the bounce like it did yesterday. But because of how NUGT has been playing out, ended up breaking the support at about $8, continuing to fall, set a new support at $7.63, and then now has a new resistance at that pretty much $8 mark. So again, like we know, old supports become new resistance levels. That was with my trade on NUGT, but it's definitely one that I see for tomorrow to have a good amount of potential, and pretty much just because it ended up closing in a sense a little bit closer to the resistance at $7.93. So let's move on to ATEC. ATEC was one that was announced within one of the traders actually asked me to do a technical analysis on this one during pre-market hours and to see what the potential was. It was actually holding and doing pretty well from 4:30 to 4:55 pre-market hours, and the reason that I saw potential in it was because of this huge spike that it had. So it had a previous support at 4:30, previous resistance at 4:55, and it has hit highs of over $5.60. So again, I was hoping in a sense, or setting up a game plan to be able to buy in at that 4:33. I was waiting for the upward momentum, so what I did was I used my indicator. So I used EMA, which shows me the average volume that is being represented within ATEC, and then within that I ended up making the decision to buy in at the bounce. So it bounced from $4.30. I ended up buying at $4.33 and ended up stop lossing out at $4.50. So with that trade alone, I was able to bring in a good amount of profit, but nothing crazy again. So it was just definitely not the volume that I was expecting. Ended up hitting that resistance at 4:55 just like it did before. So on my game plan, I was following with a stop loss. Once it triggered, I ended up just stop lossing out, and good thing I did, because I knew that this old support was at 4:30 based on the previous, in a sense, upward spike that it had. I knew that if it broke below 4:30, it was going to continue to drop because of this huge gap of support that it had. So once it broke below the 4:30, it did just that. It had an old resistance at 375 and nearly bounced at that point. Ended up closing at $4.10. So again, we're day traders. So if you would have caught it from that $3.75 to the highs of about $3 or $4.50, that's essentially your 10% profit, and that's the thing that we do best. Ended up trading this one out from 430 to the 455 or 450, and with that alone, that was my trade for ATEC. I didn't really see, again, didn't want to really go back into it. But again, I shared my trade in effort to see if anyone else could benefit from it. So you could have stop lossed out, or you could have locked in your profit from this level of trading and understood based on the history that there was going to be null resistance, which creates new supports. And once you see that bounce, that EMA line is going to show you upward momentum, and it did just that, and then ended up holding pretty well above $4. So hopefully for tomorrow we could either see it hit highs again of 430 or break above to hit highs of 455. But if not, most likely if it drops below 375, then we're going to see a downward trend just to the old supports that it's been having around 345. So that's my trade with ATEC. The last one that I want to talk about today was my trade with DGAZ, and this one I alerted during pre-market hours. So it was one that we've been talking about quite often just because of the previous volume that it had, that it was trading above $5.80. So it built a new support there and a new resistance at around $6.10. But overall, I was able to identify a support at $5.12 during pre-market hours, and this is this gray area right here. So what we were expecting is, to see the upward trend. So where was it going to hit highs up? Well, it hit highs up, 550. So that was the real resistance that I was able to identify. But there's this gap. One of you guys asked me, how did I predict, in a sense, this huge upward momentum? It's not that I predicted it. In a sense, I analyzed the graph and I knew that there wasn't any real support right here. So once it dropped all the way like it did during pre-market hours, I knew if it broke above this 550 area, there's going to be a huge spike because there's no real resistance. And again, if there's no support, then there's no real resistance, and that's what we call gappers. And that's essentially what it did. It hit highs of about 570, ended up stop lossing out. I didn't ride it out that high. So I bought once it broke, because I knew the resistance was going to be at 550. I ended up buying at that 550 right as it broke, and then ended up selling at 565. And it was a stop loss because I was following with the trailing stop loss. It hit highs of about 567, and then it came right back down and ended up closing above, again, the old resistance, which is now the new support at 550. And that was pretty much my trade on DGAZ. So one of the big stocks that were being talked about was Snapchat. If you guys did not see the video that I made today, kind of giving my feedback and my 2 cents when it came to what I expect for Snapchat to pretty much do for this upcoming week. So last week, because of all the hype, we saw a really high resistance. So opening from $17 with its announcement from its IPO, and ended up hitting highs of $29.44. Now we're most likely going to see a downward trend. It did hold pretty well, at $23.77, but we're most likely going to see a roller coaster down to more likely to that old support of $17. Maybe it's going to break a little bit below, and then that's when we're going to determine the support all the way down to maybe $17, and its resistance all the way down to $29.44. And with that, it will give us a better understanding the margins of profit that Snapchat has to offer. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you guys did, please give this a video thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you guys can, feel free to take a look at my channel. We have a couple different helpful videos to give you guys a better understanding on how to understand investing and trading penny stocks. And if you guys haven't done so already, feel free to ask to join. The link is down below. So if you'd like to be part of this TechBud Solutions group chat platform, the link is provided for you down below, so you can ask to join the Facebook platform, which will allow you access on the top pinned post to access any chat room that is the right fit for you. So I do want to give a huge shout out to all the members that participated in today's trades, and I hope we continue to end the week on a green note. Take care, guys, and we'll see you guys soon. Baby, don't you let it go to waste.